Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're at the end of another week. How did that happen? I don't know. But anyway, just glad to have you here. And if you are here listening live, I would love, and even in the replay, for you to type in the chat where you're coming from. And love to hear from you what your thoughts are on any of this that I'm going to be talking about today. As well as if you're interested in what I'm going to talk about in terms of another opportunity to work with me. So, yeah, and if you catch the replay, just type in hashtag replay or replay in the comments. That would be super. So I came across, I come up with the theme, and we're heading into another week or weekend where I'm offering a sound bath. And so I picked the theme Hush the Inner Noise because it's something that I've struggled with most of my life. And honestly, all of us struggle. I think it doesn't matter how much work you've done um, on yourself. There's just this challenge of this chatter that happens in the background that a lot of times we're not even aware that we're doing. Our mind can be very active. And of course, this is why meditation can be so helpful. But there are other ways to get there as well. And I came across this quote in just by happenstance. There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen. Yeah, well, that quote is by Rumi, but it's so powerful and it spoke right to the heart of what I want to talk about today, which is the power of other modalities, other basically, I'm a sound person, but the power of sound, just you can't even express it in words, but we all know when we're moved, when we hear a piece of music, we all know, and we get to describe what we just experienced can be beyond words. Um, and that truly is amazing when we can push the pause button and really take a listen. But there are certain things that do get in our way. And so I like to use the metaphor, I do occasionally still teach voice lessons. I'm a singer, and I used to have an active voice studio. But one of these things that keeps coming up for people that I've worked with in that genre is this having to unlearn what we automatically do. And so with singing, a lot of the times I'm dealing with people, adults or children, it doesn't matter, that have this automatic need to, it's not conscious, control what's happening. And when that happens, usually the sound is not that good. It might be passable. It might actually sound to some people like it's fine. But in all honesty, it's nothing what it could be. And so that's the piece that I want to get to here in my little talk today with you, is that when we try to take things and put them in a box, um, especially when it comes to our bodies and our minds, it can wreak havoc and actually gets in our way. And when we let the natural part of us come out, um, it's just freeing. And so many of us had this as children, but so many of us had it, kind of that natural part drilled out of us. This is not about blaming anybody, but it's a reality that many of us have dealt with. Very few adults are walking around actually being that free, um, in what in their connection with doing and being. So that connection, when we do from a place of being, it's so powerful and it's so natural, and we can't help but attract more of that in our lives. In other words, more of that positive energy, that positive interchange with a person. It just starts to happen, and I can say this, that is totally true from me. And then there's that piece of taking a risk, of taking that step outside of our comfort zone, towards what we want. So we can't just, I mean, we can, if you want to be a monk in a cave or in a monastery, you can totally just be. And that there's nothing wrong with that. But if you actually want to be active in the world, and uh, there's this balance of doing and being that I certainly struggle with, and perhaps you do too. So when we get caught up in our thinking mind, this what I observe and what I've observed in myself and others is that we often compare ourselves to others. And so when we compare ourselves to others, and I do this, it's like, oh, so-and-so is so successful, they're doing this, but I'm not. Uh, that gets to be, it's an issue, right? I mean, we're not actually free to be who we are when we're comparing with another person or some ideal. It can be very damaging. Then there's the inner critical voice, which is chattering away in the background that says, "Oh, you didn't do that perfectly. You shouldn't have said that. Why didn't you say that? What are you thinking? You're crazy." I mean, you name it. Whatever critical voice is in there for you. For me, it's often that's just you could have done that better. It's like, darn. Yeah, maybe you can relate as well. Then there's the outer critical voice, which, if somebody actually does say something that's critical and it has critical energy behind it, even the words, if the words themselves are fine, but there's a critical energy behind it, it can be like a stab to the heart. And so that's another challenge. Another way we get stuck is the self-doubt, this sense of that I don't trust myself. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know where I'm going. Um, any example you can think of where you've doubted yourself, it's a block to us being ourselves fully, right? There's fear of taking risks. I've already mentioned that. But if you think about risks, not taking risks is also an issue, right? I mean, there's a fear of taking risks, but then if you don't take a risk, things will never change. You'll just keep being in this mire of stuff that doesn't feel very comfortable or is really actually awful for you. There's the control. I've already talked about that. Trying too hard, wanting to know the outcome, crystal balling everything. It just really doesn't work. There's this other thing in our culture: faster is better. If you can run faster, if you can beat that person or climb higher or quicker, or somehow that is just like ideal. And if you can't, then you're not as good, right? Perfect is better. I've already talked about that. And then there's just the definition of success. What does success look like? And for me, it may be very different from my friends. It could be very different from your idea of what success looks like. And I think we have to be careful that we don't get stuck in somebody else's definition of success, what that looks like. For me to have some free time is, feels successful to me, that I can manage my day and still have a little time left over to just enjoy a walk in nature. And that rejuvenates me, and that feels luxurious to me. Serving others feels good to me. So, yeah, and then there's this sense that this message that keeps coming to people: we should have it all under control. This happens a lot, I think, for people who are healers, who are in that helping professions, where we feel like somehow we need to be like God, that we need to be perfect, that we don't have needs, even that we don't, we need to keep our feelings under wraps. And part of this is true because, we have to compartmentalize so that we don't shed our emotions on somebody who needs our care, right? That's not appropriate. I think we've all experienced that. It feels icky. It doesn't feel good. But there's this piece we need to get as healers and as empath entrepreneurs, that people who are sensitive, who want to help, who want to be creative, you know, and help others, that it's really okay to need support. It's really okay. In fact, it's necessary. And support looks different ways for different people, but having support from others is pretty important for all of us at some level. And you're probably feeling it more now these days, since a lot of us are still in, suffering the results of quarantine. Then there's something that's tied to that's called compassion fatigue. You probably have heard of that, where anyone who is a helper, especially empaths, get into pleasing others versus pleasing ourselves. And when we put others always in front of ourselves, that can be a setup for burnout. And it's so important to get clear on that. So this is how we get in our own, some of the ways, I'm sure there are many, that get in our own way, or unconsciously or unconsciously, and that this affects things like creative flow. Like, when am I in the zone, right? When do I feel like things are really coming naturally, where I have a creative idea? Boom. As I told a friend the other day, I actually get some of my most creative ideas in the shower or on a walk. It's not when I'm sitting working hard. That's in the thinking mind. That's often not where I get my creative thoughts. So that is, when we get into our brains and our thinking, and that's interferes with that creative flow. And, to acknowledge also that old habits die. Again, back to the singing model, we don't even realize that we're not breathing. We think we're breathing, but we're actually not really taking a full breath. So take a deep breath now, and just know that those habits can change, but we have to be aware of them first. And then we need to take a step towards changing that. Old messages die hard. So those critical voices inside and outside, but the inner messages are the hardest to address. And then old wounds, they may seem trivial, but there are some wounds that we keep coming back to that are often from childhood, that run deep. And unless we clear them from our energy field, and, by the way, our body, which they're really synonymous, unless we work to clear those will keep running the show. Okay. And so those will keep getting us stuck, and we'll have difficulty moving forward. We'll have difficulty being creative. We'll have difficulty having relationships with people who are supportive and loving. We'll have difficulty helping others without burning out. I mean, all of these things are tied. And the other piece that I always, for me, have always struggled with is being in a world of doers. It's especially tough for sensitive people, but at least that's my experience, is the sense that unless you're doing, you're just not productive. You're just not really contributing. And I think it's backwards. I think we need to be in order to do, not do in order to be. So something to think about. I'm curious what your thoughts are on these things. And so I see people getting stuck and getting confused. And part of what I work with is taking that chaos and getting some clarity out of that chaos. The stuck emotions, the memories, the regrets, the overthinking, the worrying about the future all get in the way. They keep us going around and around on the merry-go-round, where we can't get off. And our world, it just adds to that. I mean, that busy, busy, busy. We almost worship that. I love the quote from Albert Einstein that says, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." That's pretty deep, really. And so it's again flipping that whole way of being and doing in the world, and it's a challenge. Well, what helps bring us back in congruence, right? I mean, being in the present moment is one way we can get there. How do we do that? It's easier said than done. All the great meditation teachers say that, getting into the present moment, that's all we really have. We're not living in the future, we're not living in the past. So if our minds are going in the future or in the past, we're not really fully present. Like right now, if I were thinking about the next thing I need to do after this live, I would not be present with you right now. And that's doing a disservice to me and to you. Our breath helps us be in the present moment. I've already talked about that. And it's interesting. To sing well, you need to connect well with your breath. Being in nature is a way to getting back into congruence. And of course, releasing old stories, baggage, long held resentments or emotions held, all of that can really help us be more in the moment and be more of a positive force for ourselves and for others. And of course, you know that healing, or if you don't, I'm about to tell you that healing frequencies of sound, specific frequencies, of course, can release all of that. It's really like magic. People who experience the work often can't believe how easy it is. It's like peeling away the layers of the onion. Little by little, we shed old stuff that has been weighing us down, clouding our thinking and our choices. And when we clear out the noise, the first thing that people notice is that they feel calmer and lighter, that their breathing has changed. It's deeper and easier. Their body feels better. They feel more in their bodies. What sound does is calms down the nervous system and brings back in those pleasure hormones versus the constant cranking of the adrenals that are literally wearing our body out. People report having a clearer head. Their intuition increases. All of us, when we experience more clear messages, when we can clear out the noise, we start to get more coming through. Intuitive hits, creative juices start to flow, and decisions become easier. It just becomes clearer what our next step is. And that's all we need to know is the next step. We don't need to figure it. In fact, it never works that way. You can plan all you like, and I don't think there's anybody here that says, oh yeah, my life went according to plan. Yeah. No. I think we have a saying in our house, you can write on my tombstone, nothing went according to plan. Well, that's not bad necessarily, but it's different, right? Well, and then all of a sudden we can fully more express ourselves at all levels. So I know it's hard for some of you to believe that sound can do that, healing frequency can do that, but it can. And so I'm actually thinking of offering a special paid event for a maximum of 10 people that will be both informational and experiential. I'm still playing with the title, but this idea that healing frequencies really do change lives. And to give you some more information about that, let me know if you're interested in the comments below, and you can certainly message me as well. And a reminder that this Sunday is again one of our Sound Bath Sundays, and it's a way to experience what I've been talking about. So it's just one way. It's just a sampling of a larger picture, but it really can be very helpful. So if you're feeling wired, or if you're feeling exhausted or burned out, one step you can take is just come to the sound bath. And pretty much, I think everybody who's experienced it has experienced some shift. So I invite you for that. It's happening again this Sunday. I'm offering second and fourth Sundays. So this happens to be the second Sunday of April at 4 p.m. Pacific. So you can feel what it feels like to maybe hush the noise just a little bit. And I really look forward to seeing you there. And if you can't catch it live, you can catch the replay. So thanks for listening today. I hope this made sense. Feel free to talk with me more about it. We can always set up a call to discuss more of your curiosity around what it is that I do and how sound works in terms of shifting that inner noise, among many other things that I could talk about forever, but I'm not going to. All right. Take care, and I will see you all hopefully soon.